Okay, let's talk the technical and the spiritual aspect of Pesach. First and foremost, on Erev Pesach, the night before, Or Yudalid, the light to the 14th of Nisan, which means upon sunset of the 13th, begins already the next day, which is the 14th of Nisan. So this year it falls on Sunday. Sunday evening, we have to conduct a search for Chamtez. It's called B'dikat Chamtez. Obviously, by this point, we should have already cleaned our homes from Chamtez. And by the way, parenthetically, it's very important to insert over here that the Rebbe often stated and emphasized that, and this is halacha, but the halacha is when we clean for our home for Pesach, it's not spring cleaning. In other words, it's not just dusting and rearranging furniture and throwing out things that we don't need, but the target is chametz. That's the primary goal, to clean our homes from any chametz, as there are two prohibitions regarding chametz that we're warned in the Torah. Bal yira'eh v'bal yimatzeh. Chametz is not allowed to be visible and is not allowed to be found, cannot be found. Visible means on the surface and places where it's readily accessible. Be found means we can't just put it away in a closet or somewhere where technically we could find it. Also, on a deeper level, means that if a product contains chametz, although it's not visible, like for example, makeup and stuff like that, but it could be extracted, then it violates Bal Yimatzeh, according to many opinions. That's why, as we said, we have to make sure that not just, many people confuse that chametz is bread. Chametz is any leaven product. What's a leaven product? Means that any of the 5 grains, wheat, oats, spelt, rye, and barley, mixed with water and allowed to ferment for 18 minutes or more, it's chametz. And that could be anything. It's not just bread. And that's what we work on, cleaning surfaces, because again, if chametz is in the surface, it can be found. And that's why we have to clean our surfaces, like countertops, and that's why we kosher our sinks and our ovens, because even though we might get rid of the physical chametz, nevertheless, it's embedded inside the surface and can be extracted. And that's why we kasher, we purge any chametz within the recesses of the walls of the sink, etc., etc. Okay, so the night before Pesach, we conduct a search for chametz, b'dikat chametz. We shut off all the lights. We use a chametz checking kit, which includes a single wick candle. It cannot have double wick like a Havdalah candle, because that's considered a torch. Shouldn't be a flashlight. The lights have to be off because we specifically search for the chametz with the candle. This chametz searching kit has a candle, a wooden spoon, and a feather. The spoon is there to collect the chametz. The feather is to push the chametz upon the spoon, and the bag is where we dump the chametz that we find. Now, technically, the search is for any chametz. Any chametz, because I can't tell you how many times people who are very thorough in their cleaning, nevertheless they'll find a piece of Cheerio or something deep behind a cavern and something. So we look anywhere that chametz was brought throughout the year. Even if we just walked in, let's just say we had chametz in our pockets and we put it in our closet, like children do often, then we have to clean out the closet, and obviously we have to clean the chametz. We have to clean the chametz from in the pockets and so on and so forth. But anywhere that chametz was brought into must be checked. But any particular place where we know for a fact that no chametz was brought into that vicinity throughout the year, like let's just say somebody has an attic, they don't go there the entire year, and they know for a fact there's no chametz there, then they don't have to check it technically. So we we start the b'dika, the checking, with a bracha, and from the time we say the bracha until the time we finished conducting the search, we do not speak, unless there is need to ask for something regarding a relationship directly to the b'dika. So the person's candle went out, they need a flame, or so on and so forth. Because technically the blessing is for searching chametz, and until we didn't complete the search, is still in the middle of the action itself. Just like between a tilat yadayim and a motzi, we don't make we don't speak or we don't distract. That way we could be focused on the mitzvah, and we don't start speaking until we swallow the piece of bread. So because that's the mitzvah, and that's when we say the bracha on. So too, on the b'dikat chametz, we don't speak until we conclude it. We walk from room to room looking, and we look on any surfaces, beneath surfaces, in the nooks and the crannies and cracks and so on and so forth. There's also a minhag to put a Kabbalistic minhag, and this is a wide spread tradition, that we take 10 pieces of bread and place it in 10 different locations throughout the house in order to find them. Someone, either the wife, one of the children, they put it all throughout. Now, parenthetically, I recommend either putting it into saran wrap paper, saran wrap plastic, or even better, even though I'm not a big fan of ready-made stuff, but over here it's just more practical to buy the ready-made chametz pieces in Everfresh or in your local Jewish stores, in order to avert any possible crumbling of the chametz while trying to put it away. We're going to see why specifically it has to be it should be in saran wrap rather than tinfoil. We're going to speak about it soon. Anyway, we search everywhere and anywhere. The deeper aspect of it, as we know, the difference between matzah and chametz, as we spoke about last week, is the difference between humility, which is matzah, and ego, which is chametz. The difference between matzah and chametz is if it's allowed to rise. And when the dough rises, what causes it to rise? Air. In other words, it becomes big and inflated with nothingness, with emptiness. That's ego. And being that the ultimate trapping that enslaves a person is your own ego. And ego is not just, I'm better than everyone. Ego could also, as we spoke about in yesterday's from bringing in the weeks before, that I'm nobody, I'm nothing. Who am I? What can I already accomplish? That's also ego. That's a yetzer hara. And so, being that Pesach is the agent in which Hashem comes down and takes us out of our own slavery, we have to also create vessels for it, and we have to be mentally, verbally, and practically aligned with that. And so we rid we clean for chametz. When we clean for chametz, as we spoke about last week, the Berditchev Rebbe explains that the Yiddish words that describes the type of cleaning, like scraping and washing and so on and so forth, make up the same words, will come out the acronym of the name of the same angels that are created when we blow the shofar. When we clean the chametz, we're not just cleaning for the physical chametz. As we're cleaning, we should concentrate on incongruent parts of our personality, of our thought streams, of our emotions, etc., where the chametz, where the ego, unfortunately invaded and therefore corrupted. So yes, it's not easy, but as we're cleaning, we should meditate on this. Because the meditation in itself and the act in itself are part and parcels of the vessel which allows Hashem to release us from this. And when we walk around searching for the chametz, the reason why we use a single wick candle, because as Shlomo HaMelech tells us that in Proverbs that the candle of Hashem is the soul of mankind. Therefore, we're walking around with our soul with a pintele yid. That's why it can't be a torch. With a single wick candle, with a godly soul looking in the cracks, looking in the nooks and the crannies and so on and so forth. In other words, we're looking within ourselves with the cracks of our personality and so on and so forth. And we have in mind that we should look within ourselves. What else do I need to draw this godly light into and eradicate this ego within myself? And that's why, by the way, we have the 10 pieces of bread. The 10 pieces of bread corresponds to the 10 soul powers, 3 intellectual faculties, chokhmah, binah, v'da'at, and then the 7 emotive qualities, which is chesed and gvura, and so on and so forth. And what we're looking to do, and what we're going to be, when the next morning when we eradicate the chametz, is to eradicate any chametz which invaded the 10 attributes, whether it's intellectual or emotional. Because we know that once ego enters the mind, when the person thinks they're better, or I'm nobody and nothing, and so I'm broken, well, we know that the way we think is the way we're going to feel. And the way we feel is the way we're going to behave. And so the 10 pieces of bread represents the 10 corruptions of our soul talents. Now, it is advisable that whoever hides the chametz should write just basically write on a piece of paper where they stored it, because with all the pressure and the tiredness, it's feasible that the person might forget where they store it, and the person who's looking for it is also tired, and so they might be looking for it over and over, and they don't know where it is, and then they come to the person, I don't remember. That's an issue. As well as we spoke about before, that it's advisable to include the children in the bdikat chametz, but let the children, especially if they're younger, walk around with you looking for the 10 pieces. That way, if they find it, they put it into your bag, because if they find it, they don't tell you, or you're walking around for hours looking for the 10th piece, it's an issue. But nevertheless, we're not just looking for those 10 pieces. In other words, some people say, okay, we'll find the 10 pieces, we're done. We have to scour our homes wherever chametz was brought and look, because we're looking within our own vicinity, within ourselves, within the makifim, within our soul powers, within our soul talents, etc., etc. Okay. After we concluded the search, we put the feather, the spoon, inside the bag which the chametz went into. Preferably it should be a paper bag because it burns better. And then we in the back of the chametz checking kicks usually, or inserted, there's an insert in the sidurim, and usually in the Haggadah, in the beginning, in the preparation, the prefaces to the Haggadah, there's usually also the technical preparation for Pesach. You'll find this special declaration of bitul chametz, of nullifying the chametz. This is a step in which we verbally declare that any chametz that's in my possession, that I didn't find, that I'm not aware of, should be from this point on considered ownerless, hefker, like the dust of the earth. In other words, just like I don't care about the dust of the earth, so too I don't care about my chametz. Now, parenthetically over here, there are opinions, although this is not the strict legal opinions, but nevertheless it should be considered, that if during the course of Pesach a person walks by a bakery, a non-Jewish bakery, obviously, because Jewish bakeries are not open on Pesach, and smells pizza or some donuts, whatever it is, and say, wow, I wish I could have some of this. According to some opinions, this might retroactively be considered that it nullified your bitul chametz, your nullification of chametz. Because as we learned prior, that even though this declaration is written in its original Aramaic form, it's advisable to say the Aramaic, but if you don't understand Aramaic, you should also say it. Even if you do, you could read it, but don't understand it, you should also say it in your native tongue. If it's English, Farsi, Russian, whatever it is, you should say it because you're setting an intention, you're verbalizing an intention that from this point on, chametz for me is ownerless. My chametz is ownerless for me. I don't want it. It's like the dust of the earth. And if you don't understand what you're saying, there's a question if it's an actual declaration. Skip to the next morning, from the 6th hour, and I'm going to be posting the exact times in our chats. And if you're living outside of the vicinity of Great Neck, check with your local Orthodox rabbi for the times. But from the 6th halachic hour, Jewish hour, we're forbidden to consume any chametz from that point, and any food that's not kosher for Pesach, we're not allowed to consume already from that point, because it takes the body hours to thoroughly to get rid of it, to be able to eliminate it, to digest it properly. Before this, we should wash our mouths, we should brush our teeth, floss, rinse with any strong agent mouthwash, which is kosher Pesach. In other words, it doesn't have to say kosher Pesach, but as we spoke about last week, there is the Blumenkranz list, there's a Star K list, the CRC list, the OU list. You can find it online, you can buy it in a Judaic store, which tells you all the products, both food, vitamins, medicinal, makeup, etc., that is allowed to be used on Pesach, even though if it doesn't have a kosher Pesach stamp on it, and if it's not there, it means that we're not allowed to use it, because many agents, many vitamins and so on and so forth contain chemicals which are chametz based, derived, or might be kitniot, like legumes and rice, etc., derived. It depends if you're Ashkenazi, it might be a problem. It is a problem. If a person must take medicine throughout Pesach, and he doesn't find it in the list, let him call his Rav, because if it's necessary, then obviously your life takes precedence, and let the Rav already settle it. Even if it's for anxiety. I know that someone years ago asked me if they're allowed to vape on Pesach, medicinal marijuana, and I called Rabbi Lushes, who's one of the chief rabbis of New York, and I described to him what he said, that the person has extreme anxiety. He really does. It's not a fake, because if you're faking it, then you're not allowed to use this leniency. But the person has extreme anxiety, and his doctor prescribed to him to take this, and this keeps him calm. So the rabbi told me, you don't know what anxiety feels like, and you don't know what it does to the person, so I'm allowing, and you could tell him that it's totally fine in my name. So this is even on a medicinal level. Okay, let's move forward. The next morning, we conduct what's called bi'ur chametz, to eradicate chametz. Over here, there are several styles of conducting this. Sephardic people do it one way, but traditionally, most people have accepted the custom of burning the chametz. There are styles that some people disintegrate the chametz into the air to make it like dust. There's some who pour strong chemicals like bleach, because in kashrut, as we spoke about in previous classes, the main agenda is the taste. So if you poured strong cleaning agents like bleach and 409, so on and so forth, it destroys the taste. There's actually a halachic designation of chametz that if a dog would eat from it. If a dog eats it, even though you wouldn't eat from it, it has the status of chametz. By the way, there's a concept we didn't speak about, mechirat chametz, selling the chametz. And selling the chametz, we do this already this week. Either it's advisable to do it in person, to make what's called a kinyan, to designate the rabbi to be your agent. And if you cannot find a rabbi to do this, it's okay to do this online, Chabad.org, etc., etc. But nevertheless, it's a form that we fill and we fill the addresses of any place that we want to sell the chametz, and we write in all designated areas in this place, or their home. If a person is planning to leave their home for the duration of Pesach, they're allowed to sell the chametz, the entire house. For Pesach, but they would have to leave the key with the Rav, because once it's sold, the goy who buys it technically has to have access to it at any time. And if the goy comes and you don't give it access, then it shows that the sale wasn't a valid sale. It's advisable in the chametz form, in the chametz selling form, to also write at the bottom, "Uvachol makom shu," in any place that I might have not designated, I might have not remembered, any place that I have chametz. So if it's offices, if it's vacation property, etc., so long as it's yours, you're not leasing it to someone else, and it's in your possession. Or if you have a building, for example, and you have an office in that building, then you have to either sell it or you have to clean out the place, and so on and so forth. Now, if a person, for example, is planning to leave their home for the duration of Pesach and go to a hotel or Airbnb, then technically they should, before leaving, up to 30 days before Pesach, they should make a bdikat chametz in their own home. Even though there's chametz all around, they should clean a little area, whatever that area is, and to conduct the search over there. And then conduct another search when they come to the new place. If a person does go to a new place, it's important, let's just say they go to an Airbnb or a hotel, to let whoever is renting the place out, if it's a hotel or the owner, to make sure that let's just say hotels many times in the room leave snacks or alcohol. So to instruct them to remove it and tell them you have a religious preference or allergy, whatever, that we don't want it here, because technically once you've assumed ownership of the place, it's yours, even though it's not technically yours, because hotels say only if you buy it, but nevertheless it's in your possession.
But if you're staying home, then you designate a cabinet or a room.
Okay, now if you're staying home, then it's okay. Then what we do is we have cupboards or closets which we store the chametz, and then we lock them up. We put tape on it and write on it "sold for Pesach." You don't have to throw physically the food away. You could sell it, and once it's sold, it's not yours anymore. If for whatever reason a person has sold the closet, and they remembered after the sale went into effect that they left something there, they're allowed to go into it very quickly and take it out, but don't delay and don't dilly-dally in there, whatever that word is in there. Go in and get it out and close it right back up.
And if it's perishable things that you're getting rid of, does it have to go to a specific place? Like something from the refrigerator that you have to throw out?
No, you could give it to animals, you could give it to fish, or whatever it is. We try not to throw good, viable food, but you could give it before Pesach. Anything after Pesach, any chametz that is found during Pesach, for whatever reason, a person forgot, whatever it is, then the first 2 days of Pesach, it's considered muktzah, set aside. You're not even to touch chametz on Pesach for the first 2 days. So you have to cover it. You can't touch it, just cover it. Make sure it's not visible. And immediately after the conclusion of the first night, you have to eradicate it, either by flushing down the toilet, because once you flush it down the toilet, it gets destroyed by the chemicals in the sewage, or burning it, or bleach, or whatever it is, but you cannot have any benefit from it. Benefit means you're not allowed to give it to your dog, you're not allowed to give it to a non-Jewish maid, you're not allowed to sell it.
So for spices and stuff that you lock in a cupboard, you sell it and then...
You don't sell food. We don't sell the food, we just sell the cupboard. We're not allowed to sell the food. If we sell the food, it's considered, it's a problem. The cupboard, and anything the cupboard is not anything. It is not mine anymore.
and then you buy it back after.
As soon as Pesach is done, the rabbis are rabbis are already with the non-Jew. As soon as the Pesach is done, to reclaim the and that's why, by the way, you can't just sell it on your own, because this is a very technical sale. It's a very technical. The details are very technical. If a Jew owns a store like with food, they have to do this as well. Okay, so the next morning we eradicate the chametz. We burn the chametz. And this is by a certain time. I'm going to be posting the times again. If you're living outside of Great Neck, check in with your local Orthodox rabbi to find out by what time. It is our custom to burn the chametz not just till it's burned crisp, but until it loses completely its form. Because as Rabbi Akiva, as the Rebbe explained it, Rabbi Akiva's opinion is that there are 4 elements, and that's what we're burning. As we know, every single item has 4 elements: fire, wind, earth, and water. It's comprised. Every element is comprised of every item is comprised, and food is comprised of these 4. When we burn something, we eradicated all the 4 elements. However, there's a 5th element, which is the potential, the form. And so, according to the Rebbe, based on Rabbi Akiva's opinion, we eradicate even the form of chametz. But going back to the b'dikat chametz, when we said before that it's not advisable to wrap it up in tinfoil, the reason is because tinfoil will prevent the direct fire from scorching the food. Although it is a conduit of heat, it will burn the outside but not the inside. That's why it's advisable to put it into saran wrap. And if you did it in tinfoil, to open up the tinfoil into wherever you're burning it, so the fire could scorch the food directly.
You said the 10 saran wrap bags go into a paper bag?
Yeah. Also, there's a custom, and we spoke about before Sukkot and before Hanukkah, that the lulav we don't throw away because it was used for a mitzvah, as well as any oil that was and wicks that were used to light the menorah was actually used, but was remaining afterwards. We don't throw away because it was used for a mitzvah. We used it to perpetuate another mitzvah for b'dikat chametz, for the biur chametz. So we burned the lulav from Sukkot, or the remaining oil after in the b'dikat chametz. When we do the b'dikat chametz, the biur chametz. When we do the biur chametz, we stoke the fire in order to help to burn better, and then we say a standard prayer, and that any chametz that I didn't find, and that I can't burn, which should be for me like the dust of the earth. And then we have a special yiratzon, a special prayer of a plea with Hashem that may all my personal chametz and my yetzer hara be burnt away, and the exile be burnt away, etc., etc. And this over here, when we burn the chametz, we should also have in mind that any ego that I have that's paralyzing me, where there's anger, sadness, resentment, trauma, addiction, whatever it is, should be thrown into and should be burnt away, be consumed, so I could be free from it and be liberated. On Erev Pesach, we don't eat any food that is specifically designated for the ke'ara, for the seder plate. Like when we spoke about last week, that we don't have matzah already by our custom for 30 days beforehand, and especially not at the eve of. We don't have the charoset. We don't have the food that's specifically made for the mitzvah of the seder. On Erev Pesach, there's a tradition to after mincha to recite the Korban Pesach, which could be found the seder of Korban Pesach, which could be found in the Sidurim in a section that's designated for Pesach, for Erev Pesach. that goes through the technical aspect of how the Korban Pesach was offered. And by doing this, being that we don't have a Beit HaMikdash and a Mishkan, we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, and therefore we're forbidden to give an offering outside of Yerushalayim, outside of the Beit HaMikdash, operational Beit HaMikdash. By saying it, our lip service comes instead of actually doing it. In our next lesson, we're going to start focusing on the technical and the Kabbalistic and the psychological aspect of the Seder in itself, step by step, the 15 steps, etc., etc. We'll continue to see Mir Hashem tomorrow.